Welcome to the roller coaster of midlife. I'm your host, Lucy Q. Our lives often present us with ups and downs, moments of sheer joy, and times of unexpected trials. Sometimes, amidst all the hardships, we forget the incredible power and resilience found in something as simple as a laugh. Today, we have a guest who understands the profound impact of laughter on our well-being. Joining me today is Noreen Braman, who isn't just a laughter enthusiast. She's a keynote speaker, a workshop presenter, and an author. Drawing from her own challenges, including fibromyalgia and thyroid disease, Noreen has cultivated humor as her ally, teaching us that our toughest challenges can be transformed into humorous tales. Welcome, Noreen.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this. I never knew growing up that laughter was something so important, but I've learned that since the time we are born, we actually use laughter in a way that has been with us since before humans had language. So, for example, a baby, when you're holding them and you rock them and you look at each other and you start to smile and laugh, that's actually a bonding mechanism in the baby's brain. So the baby is definitely going to try and smile at you and get you to take care of it. And we think, okay, so we're teaching the baby some things. Functional MRIs have recently shown that when this happens, it's so important to the brain that your brains sync together, you and the child, while laughing. And you also would think, well, of course, I'm the grown-up. I'm teaching this baby what to do. That's not what's going on. What's going on is the baby's brain is controlling your brain waves. So it's kind of a diabolical survival system. And I learned this after having a growing up time that didn't have much laughter in it. Laughter was used as a weapon when I was a child to control and demean us. There were nicknames for us, and unfortunately, my nickname was the Brainless Wonder. And
Ouch.
yeah, it really, I mean, that can just, all parts of you is hurt by that. And so I grew up thinking that all laughter was directed at me. The typical mean girls at school were able to use that against me, you know, make fun of me. And it was really very difficult for a long time. And somewhere around junior high, a music teacher came to our classroom and said, you know, you can learn a musical instrument. And I was like, okay, I'll try this. And it turned into a 6-year tutelage under someone. His name was Mario De Carolis. And he was not only my band teacher, my band director, he was like a father figure. And not only to me, but for the other kids in the music program that seemed to have, you know, lost their way. And he actually showed me how laughter could be fun. He had a joyous laugh, laughed about a lot of things, and I started to feel more comfortable about laughter. So years later, I'm a young married mom, and I'm beginning to have my own children. And my marriage wasn't successful. And as things started to fall apart, I found that taking my kids in the car to wherever we were going for soccer practice, football, dance, we would just laugh hysterically. In fact, to the point where my kids would sometimes say, Ma, stop laughing and pay attention to the driving. And again, laughter seemed to bond with me. And I didn't even realize how important it was until my nephew, Joey, said to his mom, my sister, Teresa, you know, I just really love Aunt No. They call me Aunt No. And she said, well, why is that? And he said, because she's always smiling. And it's sort of this personality that I developed growing up, that I was going to smile and laugh no matter what was going on. And that doesn't mean that I didn't take serious things seriously. So years later, I'm working in the lawyer's assistance program. And the executive director says to me, well, I know you like to write humor. Here's this thing we got in the fax. Remember faxes?
Oh, yeah.
Something called laughter yoga. Why don't you go learn it and see if it can help our attorneys who are in distress? So I went, and it was a life-changing experience. I never realized you could laugh as an exercise. You could laugh just for fun. I always thought it had to depend on
Well, if you go through like you have a really good laugh with somebody, your stomach hurts. There are some muscles being used when you're having a good laugh.
Yes, that's absolutely true. So what happened is I took these classes, then I went to something called a conference called Can Humor Save the World? And then I went to Rutgers and studied the psychology of humor. And boy, I was off to the races. I started doing laughter yoga sessions for people, which teaches you how to laugh without relying on comedy or jokes. And then I started to do more research. I joined the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. And this is where I learned how important laughter is to human survival, that it's so important that you need to actually look for humor, find humor, incorporate it into your life. Psychologists have made theories, and the numbers are different, but that for every negative experience you have, you need 2 to 3 or maybe 4 positive experiences to balance your resilience. So, especially when you're a mom and you've got all the things going on with your kids and you're trying to balance things, you're like, the hits just keep coming. This kid got a black eye at softball, and this one twisted her ankle at dance, and this one failed the math test, and never mind your own things going on. It seems like the hits keep coming. And that's why you need to add laughter to your well-being practices, whatever other things that you do, because the secret about laughter is, and you got right to it when you talked about that belly laugh, it not only benefits you physically, it benefits you mentally. And not all things we do have that double whammy.
Yeah. So what are just some of the highlights of the physical and the emotional benefits that we get from laughter?
So laughter is an aerobic exercise. It's not cardio, but if you have a good laugh and take your pulse, you're going to find that your pulse is raised. That's an aerobic exercise. In laughter yoga, you even do moving around and walking around and simple things. Can also do them seated. And again, that raises your heart rate, gives you a little bit of muscle stimulation. And then the magic thing happens where your brain releases endorphins. And the endorphins are part of those hormones that make us feel calm, relaxed, and happier. And we need those endorphins to be there for when, again, life is not so funny. We've heard that trauma gets dug in your amygdala. So does laughter. Laughter digs in the memories just as deep as trauma. And often, I know when I was a kid, I get gone to some family funerals, and people were laughing. And I kind of thought, well, that's disrespectful. I was feeling uncomfortable. But I've come to learn now that laughter is the best way to make sure you have clear and vivid memories of people you've lost. So again,
it's funny. It's funny you brought that up, because at my father-in-law's funeral, I was hit with a bout of the funnies during the funeral, and I must have looked like a crazy person, because when you sort of sit down with the priest and you choose the readings, one of the readings came up with something to do with a tent. I don't know what it had to do with anything, but I said, absolutely no, you cannot do the tent the tent reading, anything that mentions a tent, because just that summer, there was a really funny incident putting up a tent at his house. And I'm like, you can't, I will lose it. And so we chose two other readings. Okay, no problem. What did the priest choose to read? The tent one.
My goodness.
And I just sort of, it was just one of those moments. I just kind of like looked at my husband and my kids and I'm like, I'm going down. I'm going down. Because that's what when you said that it implants yourself, to me, all I have to do is think back to that and I've got the giggles. The same way that we can think back to a sad moment and tears spring to our eyes. I can see how they both get, ingrained in us. But it's like all you have to do is think of some funny moments when you've lost yourself in laughter and you're smiling again.
It's two sides of the same coin. You need both in your life to really have a healthy brain. We don't know why that, sad things happen and we lose people and whatever, but the laughter that we've had with them helps us build our resilience, and that resilience help us get through it and then eventually go through the grieving process, and at some point come out at the part where now you can sit down with the family and you can talk about grandpa and, oh my goodness, remember when this happened, remember when that happened. My family has spent so many Thanksgivings just sitting around the table with tears running down our face,
Reminiscing,
also laughing about some of the things our mom and dad used to do. And it's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing. Who knew that this was so important? So now what I do is I go out to corporations and organizations and lots of senior centers to bring this message of laughter to them.
That's just what I was thinking about when you're sort of talking about the importance of laughter, and we were talking about it when we're babies. And I thought, I wonder how that would impact seniors, and especially anybody that has some form of dementia.
The good thing about doing laughter yoga style exercises with people in memory care is they are not stressed by having to get the joke. Sometimes, I'm not a comedian. I may say something funny on occasion, but I'm not a comedian telling jokes to make you laugh. And we're just doing it as an exercise. And the gentle encouragement and the smiling, and they smile back, and then they realize, okay, if we can do this, I could just laugh. I don't have to worry about anything. And it's usually very successful in those situations. In fact, people who have memory care issues, sometimes just because they're laughing, something comes back to them where they laughed and they remember things. And it's a really joyous thing to see.
That's really interesting to see how it affects. I'm really surprised when you were saying about how as babies, they're the ones that are sort of evoking that laughter in us as a survival mechanism, because essentially babies are only operating in their subconscious minds.
Right. And it makes us understand how that primitive brain really has a lot of power in a child's development, that it has stored in there things that we had to do when one Neanderthal group would meet another Neanderthal group and they had no language. And even if they had language, they probably didn't have the same language. And somehow that primitive brain started to send out signals to, first of all, show your teeth. Now, most animals, when they show your teeth, that's aggression. For humans, it's friendliness. And then to make those kinds of ha, ha, ho, ho, ha. That was the start of language, were those sounds. And the Neanderthals would say, okay, we can work together. And it lives on in babies. It's just amazing. And of course, it's not an automatic thing. It has to be people have to be relaxed. The baby hopefully is relaxed. On an occasion, you will see sometimes a baby will react to somebody just crying all the time. We don't know why that happens. For some reason, that connection isn't made. But when it is made, those brain waves just go together. And that's why sometimes you may see, oh, we give the baby to Grandpa Joe because we don't know why she's crying, but as soon as he holds her, she stops crying. They've got the sync going on.
How have you used, because you said that you've had thyroid disease and fibromyalgia. How have you used that laughter in managing your own challenges?
It turns out that laughter actually gives pain relief. Laughter being one of the few exercises that involves both sides of your brain can actually dull the pain receptors and quiet down that painful feeling. And it can last for, a few hours afterwards. So I found, especially with the fibromyalgia, because you just get pains just about anywhere, it's like you have you've got a sports injury just from sleeping. And that really helped. When I get up in a group, I could have had a really bad day, not slept well, and I get doing those things with them and having them join in, I suddenly realize, oh, well, my back doesn't hurt anymore. And it will, it's not a cure-all, but it does help. And it makes you, when your endorphins are released, the one thing about endorphins is they're also pain relieving, but they don't last that long because the body wants you to go back to what you were doing that made it feel good. So it's a kind of a way the body is encouraging us to move, laugh, interact with other people, get some exercise, and get those endorphins flowing through the body.
I've also seen some studies where people that have been diagnosed with fairly severe illnesses, where they've only engaged in watching comedy, things that make them laugh. And there's a notable change in their diagnosis by just implementing that.
It's true. So back in the 40s, a man named Norman Cousins, who was the editor of the Saturday Evening Post, was given a very dire diagnosis by his doctor. And he was told to go home and settle his affairs. And Norman Cousins had a lot of influence in Hollywood. And he decided, well, if this is it for me, I want Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello, Charlie Chaplin. I want all those movies. Bring them to my house. And they did. And they showed him all these comedy movies. And he said that 20 minutes of hearty laughing gave him 4 hours of sleep. And as it turned out, who knows whether that diagnosis was correct? Who knows if the laughter, how much it influenced him? But he went to live 40 years on after that and did not die of what he was diagnosed with. And he actually started the whole idea of gelotology, which is the study of laughter. And you can actually get a degree in this at a college and go out and teach.
What's it called? Gelotology?
Gelotology, yes.
Oh,
you can become a gelotologist.
Okay, hadn't heard of that one.
Exactly. Me too. When I saw that, I was like, whoa, like blows your mind.
What a good job that is.
Yeah. So that's what I'm working on.
You mentioned about 20 minutes of laughter got him 4 hours of sleep. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of the midlife women out there listening are going, oh, hang on here, because a lot of us do suffer from sleep problems. Even like I'm on my hormones, and I'm even like I'm on my estrogen, I'm in my progesterone, I'm in all of that. I'm doing everything they say. I'm even taking an amino acid called tryptophan to try and keep me asleep at night. I still, this week, new moon, bad sleep. New moon, full moon, I'm not getting any sleep those weeks. So I only sleep about 2 weeks out of the month. So I'm really curious. Is there any more research done about laughter and getting sleep?
It's it's the idea of that you are building your resilience and that you are also getting a little bit of aerobic exercise. And if you'd like, I can show you something that moms can do with their children.
Yeah,
So,
or something, or even like an activity that, for driving home from work and it was a shit day and you just
mhm.
need that break. You need that mental release. Yeah.
So all you need to know is the laughter sounds. Ho, 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 ha, 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 he. With children, you can start them off easily by just clapping. Ho, 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 ha, 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 he. And then you add the most important part, wee. My children, we used to call it marching music time, and I would say, if you just let me do these things around the house at 11 a.m., we'll do marching music. And they would march and ho, ho, ha, he, wee. And then we'd play some music and they would do that. And doing the laughter sounds tells your brain release endorphins. So that's a really fun thing that moms can do, especially if the kids are like, at each other or whatever. Okay, let's do some laughter. And then for a little bit older and for adults, we teach, where does laughter live in your body? Well, ho, ho, ho lives in your Santa Claus belly. Ha, ha, ha lives in your lungs. And he lives up here in your throat. And that's where we're breathing most of the time, which isn't that good for us. We need to deep breathe. So you haven't lived until you've seen 200 lawyers dressed for court do this. Ho, 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 ha, 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 he, what? And they turn to each other and they look at each other and it's just, spontaneous laughter. And those kinds of things help because you're not relying on, well, we'll tell a joke, although dad jokes can work really well. You don't have to be a comedian. You can just be a leader. And kids love it. I've done it for preschool children in daycare centers, just sitting down on the floor and, tapping, ho, 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 ha, 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 just using those sounds.
I can't help but think if our respective governments started off their parliamentary sessions with that, how much different our country would be.
Oh, I so agree with that. I so agree with that. That's one thing I tell corporations, start off your meetings with this. It definitely gets you in the present moment, not thinking about what you had to do this morning and where you're going this afternoon. Because again, we all are guilty of that.
Yeah.
And any mom who's, whatever her situation is, going to work, coming home, taking care of the kids, going here, going there, is never thinking about the present moment. It's where I have to be, where I just was. And
Noreen, we need you at the next G20 meeting.
Yes.
maybe maybe we could stop these shenanigans that are going on in this world and get back
I
to some sort of
agree. I
normalcy.
agree. How can you
Although
meet
Canada has
me?
become the laughing stock of G20, we're providing a lot of entertainment for everybody as it is.
Well, guess what? That is helping a lot of people be more calm when they can see that people in high positions can, allow themselves or do things that make
Oh,
people laugh.
I don't think he's intending to make people laugh. I think he's being serious. And we're just like, no, please stop. But
And
as long as everybody else is getting a good laugh on our part, okay. We've put up with it long enough. Now,
but again, we resort to humor sometimes when the topic at hand is just too hard to handle. And it is why sometimes people do say things that in retrospect, that was ridiculous. He said what? And it's because people are they're overwhelmed. And it helps us realize, hey, that's a human being too. They're not, just because they're the head of the government doesn't mean they're always right. Doesn't mean that everything they say is a gem for the encyclopedia. They're just like us.
Ain't that the truth? And now, as we wrap up today, Noreen, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
I have a motto in my life, and it's a little bit of a takeoff on a famous poem. But what I tell people is, as you travel through life, don't go gently, go laughing.
Love it.
And, yeah.
Love it. We can all definitely use more humor in our lives. So everybody, wherever you're listening to this, just take Noreen's lesson and do your ho, 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 he. Was it ho, 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 he.
Ha ha ha, he.
There we go.
And you don't have to do it in the same order. You could do it in any order you want. Ho ho, ha ha, he. 3 words.
There we go. There we go. To connect with Noreen, please check out the show notes. I will have all of the links in there. Now, my goal for the roller coaster of midlife is to empower women like you to thrive in this amazing chapter of our lives. So go on, embrace the adventure, and start rocking midlife like the badass you are. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend, because our greatest power is in our community. Don't forget to visit my website, therollercoasterpodcast.com, and click on Start Here to get your free audio course, 3 steps to go from hot mess to badass and start rocking midlife. I'd like to thank you, my listeners, for choosing to join us. And Noreen, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and laughs.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep riding the roller coaster and embracing the adventure of midlife.